What is up, you happy hustlers out there? Cary Jack here, and I really hope that you are being grateful for this day and every moment in it, because I'll tell you straight up, I almost died. I literally was unconscious and basically just waiting to die due to the carbon monoxide poisoning. And my dog saved my life. And in this story, I'm going to share with you all the details as well as the two greatest lessons learned from this near-death experience. And I will just preface this again with I'm not doing 100% okay in terms of my brain functionality and performance. I'm most likely going to stammer, lose my words. My verbal recall is lacking. I'm a little disoriented. I got tinnitus in the ears, and honestly, I got this light tremor because of the poisoning. So I'll tell you the treatments we're doing to combat this, but specifically I want to get into these two life lessons and how they relate to you, your happy hustling journey, because these two lessons are universal, but they're also very important. And I want you to hopefully get some real value from me sharing this near-death experience with you guys, and also take it and learn from it so that you don't have to learn it the hard way like I am. Okay, so here's the story, and I'll just tell you again, like, it kind of seems like this story is almost from like a movie script, but it's not. It's true. It's all real life. But essentially it started back on Tuesday morning. It goes further back, but I'm going to just shortcut it for, time's sake. And essentially my dad woke up in his ranch home in Montana on Tuesday morning. Right now, as I'm recording this, it's a week after, and it's Thursday, so it's about 8 days after. But essentially, last Tuesday morning, he woke up and he couldn't barely breathe. He was disorientated. He had sky-high blood pressure, and he just had like a nerve block the day prior due to the fact that he cut his finger off with a saw weeks earlier. And he developed CRPS, which is a nerve disease. If you remember the Amberly Lago episode that we did on the Happy Hustle podcast, she also suffers from that nerve disease. Anyway, one of the treatments is a nerve block. So we thought maybe this current state that my dad was in was due to the nerve block that he had the day prior. But he contacted my sister in a panic, and this surgery center also called him, and essentially, he contacted, or the surgery center contacted him first, and they could tell he was out of it and disoriented. So they called 911. Then he called my sister in a panic. Then she called me, and then I'll get into the story, but he took an ambulance to the hospital, and he was admitted for the next 3 days. And this is important to the story because my brother and my sister both flew in. They caught the next flights to Montana. My sister from California, my brother from Florida, and I drove 6 hours. I was on set in Missoula, Montana, which is about 6 hours from where my dad lives. And I was actually going to be on Steph's movie, or in Steph's movie. Steph is my fiance. She booked a lead in a movie. So she's shooting it over in Missoula, in that area. And she got me a role as a bank manager, which, if you know me, or if this is your first time, welcome. I'm super grateful for you to be here. But I'll tell you, if you don't know, I got one foot in the entertainment industry. So this was going to be a fun role for me to, play a bank manager and be in her movie. Anyway, I got the call that my dad was ambulanced to the hospital. Obviously, that took precedent over the ambulance, or over the movie. So I drove 6 hours to the hospital. That night, now my brother and sister and I are all in town. We're all taking care of my dad bedside near his hospital. He had a heart attack as well. He was also kind of diagnosed with this diabetic coma. Because of all these complications, they kept him overnight. They had to do a whole bunch of tests. So my brother and sister and I drove back to his house, and we spent the night. That's about an hour from the hospital. So Essentially, we just got home late. It was past dark. We ate some soup. I watched Brink on Disney. I don't know if you remember that rollerblade movie, but I loved that movie. So we stayed up. I stayed up later than them, finishing the movie. And then we all went to bed upstairs, just like a normal night in our, beds that we basically grew up in. And around 3 a.m., I heard Steph's dog, and his name's Biggie Smalls. He's a 15-year-old pit bull, and he was barking relentlessly. So I got up, I went downstairs, I picked him up off the kitchen floor. His legs don't work that good because he's older. And I went to let all the dogs out. I also had my Belgian Malinois and German Shepherd mix Ninja. He's about 3 years old. And then my dad's dog, who's a 4-year-old Border Collie. So I let them all outside. And then that's basically, the last thing I remember before collapsing into the door. And it's like a glass door. And I gashed my front forehead over my left eye. And I was unconscious on the ground. And then I heard the dogs clawing to get back in, and basically, they wanted to come in. It was cold outside. So I woke up. I saw I was all bloody, and I let the dogs in. Somehow I made it to the bathroom, which was pretty close by. But I picked up the toilet seat to, take a piss. And that's the last thing I remember again. I went unconscious, and I was in the bathroom floor unconscious. I was bloody, I was sweaty, but I was unconscious. And my dog Ninja started licking me in my bloody head, and then he started whimpering over my body. And that very well could have saved my life. I'll tell you straight up, dogs are amazing. And that one act from my Belgian Malinois German Shepherd mix Ninja, who is a very smart dog, he knew something was wrong, and he was whimpering over my body, and he woke me up. I got up, made my way, and as I was walking to the kitchen, I heard a big thud. And I was like, what the heck was that? I then sat on the kitchen table, and then I look over, and my sister was sitting on the couch. And apparently that big thud was her collapsing. And she fell. She came down the stairs. She heard that I got up. She came down the stairs, and she went to the other bathroom, and she collapsed before getting there, hitting her head, biting through her tongue, banging up her knees, and bending her glasses. Then she was sitting on the couch. She pulled herself together and was sitting on the couch in this weird, dazed, disorientated state. And we basically sat 20 feet from each other, but we didn't even know that each other were next to in the same area until she made a noise, and it was maybe minutes after. So I went in the other room. We were both freezing, so I made a fire, and I sat by the fire, and we were trying to figure out what the heck was going on. I was literally thinking all sorts of crazy thoughts. Oh, could this be extraterrestrial activity, or is this the Wi-Fi, or is this something else, or is this the soup that we all ate, or what's going on? I've never in my life felt like this, guys. I'm telling you, my ears were going wow, 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 just nonstop. And it was one of those things that we were so out of it, we just didn't know. But in my disoriented state, I had the wherewithal to say, you know what, I need to wake my brother up upstairs and see, if he's okay. So I go upstairs, I wake up Graham, and he popped up and he said, what's going on? Are you guys okay? Or do we got to go, check on Dad? Because we were supposed to go back to the hospital for my dad's heart procedure the next morning. Well, he got up, we went downstairs, and we all sat on the couch trying to deductive reason what the heck's going on. And he said, well, my dad just had his a new heater installed with natural gas. Maybe it's carbon monoxide poisoning. So my brother was really the second reason why we all are still alive, because he saved our lives by just having that knowledge and that wherewithal to put it all together. So he basically picked us up over his shoulders and walked us outside. And on the way out, my sister was throwing up. This poison was just taking over our bodies. And we got outside. We turned on the truck. We sat outside with the windows open, brought the dogs outside with us. And then we called poison control. And essentially, we were, trying to get instructions what to do in this situation from the carbon monoxide poison control hotline. They recommended we call 911. Then 911 came, ambulance, fire department, police officer. we got in the ambulance. My sister got put on pure O2 right away. And then I had, I had to go through like an intake eval with the paramedics. My brother was outside with the fire department trying to explain to them, what was happening. Instantly, the fire department came back out to the ambulance and said, we got carbon monoxide present. These are some of the highest levels we've ever seen. The police officer came over and said, usually I come to these calls because we find dead bodies. When there's a carbon monoxide call, there's dead bodies usually involved. And that's why I came, because it's usually a crime scene. He said, you guys are so lucky to be alive. And that is the first and greatest lesson, okay? Life is absolutely so precious. And I'm going to circle back to that lesson afterwards, after I finish the story in its entirety. But I will just tell you, that is such an important lesson. So the fire department came and, they were testing all the levels in the house. They were 100 feet away from the front door of the house and were still picking up readings of massive amounts of carbon monoxide. So apparently when, the new heater was installed, there was a leaky pipe or something went wrong. We're still under, investigation, what's going on exactly, but it was leaking for over a week. So it was building up. And essentially we, just got out by the hair on our chinny chin chins, because this was like a really close call to not waking up ever again. And then we got our neighbors, our amazing neighbors, Wade and Cindy, over. They said they would take us to the hospital instead of taking an ambulance ride. So they took us to the hospital in Billings, an hour away. We got to the ER. We got our blood work tested. We got put on pure oxygen, all three of us. We got our blood work back, and I had 16.7 carbon monoxide in my bloodstream. My brother had 13.9. Megan had a lot higher, but since she was on pure O2 the longest in the ambulance, waiting outside, and then so hers was down to 9%. Apparently, if you have 20 to 25% of carbon monoxide in your blood, that's the lethal dose. You should be dead. So I was very close at 16.7%. So we were on pure O2. My brother threw up. We were in the ER, basically just trying to push this, carbon monoxide from our systems. They got us on some ID drips. And then, after a couple hours of this, I actually had mild traumatic brain injury. So I pretty much had a concussion because of the fall directly to my head. I was pretty out of it. We all were, but we were just grateful to be alive. We then got discharged from the ER, and we went to get hyperbaric oxygen chambers. These are pressurized, like little capsules. If you don't know what HBOT is, it's hyperbaric oxygen therapy technically, but that you sit in this pressurized oxygen chamber, and that is how you force the carbon monoxide from your bloodstream, because it's very tricky with carbon monoxide. Apparently it gets into your brain and to all these different body parts, and it latches on to your O2 and into your blood, and it's very hard to get rid of it. You won't be able to get rid of it just naturally at the levels that we were at. So we did these hyperbaric oxygen chambers. We did some Myers cocktails and vitamin IV drips with glutathione. We just did some more yesterday, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. We also did some more vitamin IVs. We're going tomorrow to get the 2.4 atmospheric pressure at the Bozeman Health Clinic, which is like the hospital, to get the most pressurized, highest available in Montana. And we're praying that there's no neurological effects. We talked to Dr. Weaver out of Utah, and he said there's 50% chance that you are okay and you resume all your normal neurological functions, and there's 50% chance that you're going to have lingering effects for your life. This could cause MS or Parkinson's or all sorts of stuff. And I had no clue about any of this. I'll just tell you, like, carbon monoxide was, you have natural gas, you want to have your alarm on, which is a very big takeaway. Make sure that you guys have carbon monoxide alarms that are working. We had old ones that weren't working, apparently. And then with this natural gas, it's just, it's something you want to make sure you have. You have an updated one. We have 4 right now back in the house. So yeah, it's one of those things. Make sure you guys have your fire alarms and your carbon monoxide. If you take nothing else away from this, hopefully you take that away, because it could save your life, you save your family's life. But essentially, that's what happened. We're really grateful to our hero dogs that really truly saved our lives, specifically Ninja and Biggie Smalls. Shout out to them. And then to Grant for having the wherewithal to put it together. But, the reason they call carbon monoxide a silent killer is because it's odorless, it's tasteless, it's colorless, and it's lethal. So that's pretty much what happened. They realized my dad had carbon monoxide poisoning too, so they postponed his heart procedure because they initially didn't check for that. And yeah, it was just a crazy, turn of events, everything, what happened. But we're just really grateful to be alive. And I'll tell you that straight up. Now, the 2 biggest takeaways that I want to share with you, okay? One, I mentioned it, but life is so precious. Don't take a moment of it for granted, okay? Be grateful for just every part of it. And, specifically, don't waste time. Knowing that life is precious, just don't waste your time. Don't waste your time working a job that you hate. Don't waste the time in a relationship that's not, treating you with the respect and love that you deserve. Don't waste your time, eating unhealthy or not treating your body like the temple that it is. Don't waste your time, because if anything, that is our most precious commodity, because you only get 24 hours in the day, and once they're gone, and you never know when your day will be the last. And love your family and your friends along this line. Make sure that, when you say hello and goodbye, that you say it with that type of urgency and importance, because, I remember saying goodnight to my lover, Steph, but ultimately, that could have been the last time. And you want to make every hello and goodbye a good one. And specifically, I left this out of the story, but it's a very important note. I called Steph at 4 a.m. before I woke my brother up, and she was with us on FaceTime the entire time, all the way through, all the way to the hospital. She had the ability to think for us because we could not think. She was right there every step of the way. So shout out to her for picking up the phone at that hour. And she then drove all the way across the state. She postponed their whole movie because then she drove in to take care of us, as well as my sister's fiance, Jason. Shout out to him, because he flew in from California, and they became our nurses and took care of all 4 of us who were, had these ailments and different symptoms going on, and still do. So they are real angels and rock stars. But that's the first takeaway. Life is absolutely precious. The second takeaway, and this is huge for specifically you happy hustling entrepreneurs out there, or entrepreneurs, people who want to have businesses. I was an entrepreneur before I was an entrepreneur, so don't worry if that's you. It's the progression. But I will tell you, this takeaway could rock your world. But essentially, the second takeaway, the greatest lesson learned, is systematize your business so that you are an owner, not an operator. Okay, systematize your business so you are an owner, not an operator. Because when you can't work, you need to ask yourself, is your business still going to work? And if it's not going to work, then you're an operator. Okay, but if your business works when you don't, okay, then maybe you're an owner. But you have to think about how you can remove yourself from your day-to-day ops, from your day-to-day business operations. How can you systemize tasks and things that you do repeatedly? And how can you hire and delegate to people who can help support you in your business? This is really important, and this was eye-opening for me, specifically with the Happy Hustle. Obviously, this podcast, I need to do it. This is like one of those tasks where it's not going to work unless I do. But there's other forms of my business that I can automate and systematize, and I can make sure that they work when I don't. God forbid something happens, you get injured, you can't work. This is when it's really important to have this owner mentality rather than an operator. Okay, and you need to have those backup plans just in case things go down and you're not able to work. So, very important takeaway, make sure that you are systematizing your business. You're an owner, not an operator, and you know, just do your best to remove yourself from those day-to-day ops so that you can really grow and scale. And there's really two ways to grow and scale your business. It's get more customers, or increase the average customer value of your current customers, right? So get them to pay more. So you have to think about how you can do those two tasks: get more customers and increase the average customer value of your current customers. And that's how you can really start to systematize. You need to systematize those two tasks specifically: customer acquisition, right, for your product or service. And it's really just one of those things when you're not able to work. Like for me, I haven't really worked in the past week, not much. My business is still running. My funnels are still running. My marketing campaigns, all the different things that I have going on are still running, but they're now running to the degree as if I was working. And that was a hole that I realized. And throughout this experience, I'm going to fill, so I'm prepared for any adversity in the future. Or maybe I just want to take a long vacation and not work, right? That's like one of those things where this doesn't always have to be for a negative adversity to strike for you to do. When you set yourself up as an owner and not an operator, then you're prepared and you can leverage your time most effective. So those are the two biggest takeaways, guys, from this near-death experience of almost dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. I will tell you, that carbon monoxide is no joke. And I really do pray, that you guys heed these messages and specifically get yourself a carbon monoxide alarm and fire alarm that is working properly. But yeah, I'll keep you posted on the recovery. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with how well I got through this whole podcast episode, because this is my first recording since the exposure. I didn't stammer as much as I thought I was going to, so I'm pretty grateful. And I appreciate you guys so much for just watching and listening. Like, it's just so important to me that I get to serve you. Like, I don't take that for granted whatsoever. Like, this is 100% a podcast that is really designed to add as much value as possible. And I really do live my life with that service over self mindset. And it's one of those things that really bring me joy. So I'm just grateful for you listening and watching. If you're not watching right now and you're just listening, all this is on YouTube and it's a video version. So I urge you to check out Cary Jack, the Happy Hustler YouTube channel. And we'll link it all up in the show notes. But I appreciate you guys again. Gosh, just don't take life for granted. All right. It is so precious. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm out. Peace and love, y'all.